Hi everyone, this is Zorina Dimitrova, trainer in Business with Meaning. I'm here with Krasi Attasio, an amazing woman and ancient astrologer. And today we have an amazing topic for you, which is the 2020 forecast of the major events, analysis of the celestial events and how we see them enveloping in the coming year. And also we're going to end up with a recommendation of what businesses are good to start in 2020. So we have prepared a number of charts for you, and hopefully this would be interesting. Hi, Krasi.
Hi, Zori. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation.
So I made the introduction, but clearly you could have made it as well, because we are sharing with both of our audiences on your channel and on my channel. So thank you for having me as well.
Yes. This will be very interesting because this year is not usual. It's very, very unusual. And it is because mainly, because you will show charts in a moment, but just to say that we will list the most important celestial events that will change the world in 2020. We will not show all events because it's not possible, but the most important events are Saturn entering sidereal Capricorn, which he's doing only one time per 30 years. Then we will be talking about conjunction Saturn-Pluto, very important conjunction, which is already taking place. Then we will be talking about Jupiter and his return one time per 12 years in the sign of Sagittarius, which is already fact. Jupiter entered the sign of sidereal Sagittarius already in November 2019. And what was the last event, Zori?
The last one is Jupiter and Saturn conjunct at the end of 2020.
Oh yeah, this one also. And of course, we will just point at our expectations on how this will influence the politics and people on mundane level.
Just a disclaimer again that this is a very generic observation of what is going on, and we by no means want to be exhaustive in the analysis or pinpoint everything. It's just what we've noticed and makes sense to mention regarding the current aspects. And I will share the screen now. We've prepared 4 charts, and you have also prepared the chart, I believe. But we're going to go through the charts in a chronological order rather than by importance.
Yes.
Yeah. So the first one, which is already happening, as you mentioned in your previous videos, is Pluto conjunct Saturn. The exact conjunction is happening on the 12th of January, this upcoming year.
Yes, until you share your screen, just to mention, people already experience the energies of this conjunction because at the moment when Saturn entered the sign of sidereal Sagittarius, this conjunction was fact. It is called conjunction by sign. So they are already exchanging energy since November 2017, and the closer Saturn approaches towards Pluto, of course, the more powerful, in a more powerful way, we will experience the energies. But the fact is they are conjoined already. So whatever we feel happening on the political scene, like emphasis on the hidden influences of secret services, it's already happening. But it will, of course, accelerate when they're in exact conjunction around mid-January. And it may not be felt immediately because these are 2 very slow planets, Zori.
So just to mention that these charts are done using astro.com's website, and we have used sidereal astrology, but we're not going to be talking about signs too much unless we're talking about Saturn entering Capricorn. We're going to be mostly analyzing aspects, which would be the same case whether you're using tropical or sidereal. So whatever your preference, this would be still valid for you or for your understanding of how the world works.
Yes.
Right. So here we see that this huge stellium here, including Mercury, the Sun. So it's not only Pluto and Saturn, but at the time of the exact conjunction, we also have Pluto and the Sun and Jupiter, following back. And what you just mentioned about secret services is could also be seen by that, because Pluto, as far as I know, I'm not a professional astrologer, I'm a hobby astrologer, but
no, you have pretty good understanding, so go ahead. Yes, yeah.
So Pluto could be surveillance, anything to do with privacy, and we've definitely seen a lot more voice being rising of people's voice regarding privacy policies. And this is especially seen also because of an aspect from Uranus. And Uranus in the 10th house, no matter of the sign, represents not only government, but also, or the 10th house in general, represents multinational corporations. So really huge corporations. And recently, I think last month or maybe a month and a half ago, there were talks about Amazon winning a huge contract with the US government rather than Microsoft. So it was selected. And so this caused a lot of noise because there were concerns among people about the privacy of their data now being stored on Amazon's cloud. So this is just an example of how privacy policy represented by Pluto can be affected by corporations and surprising decisions coming from corporations in the 10th house. Now, Mercury is also here, and we discussed with you before the start of this talk that there's a lot going on in terms of not full media coverage, or rather suppression of free speech, freedom of speech, and lots of people have noticed it recently.
Oh.
But this is especially visible also from this.
Just to mention one thing here, which is not seen on this chart, because astro.com doesn't have this function. But we know astronomically that at this very moment, at the moment of the chart, 12th of January, all these planets are invisible. Invisibility means literally not to be seen. The planets are combust, burned in the rays of the sun. And when they are combust, invisible, guess what? Things are happening in a secretive way, hidden way, behind people's backs. And when you have Saturn and Mercury, when you see this also in a natal chart, this is typically not a good conjunction. It is always afflicting speech, the way people pronounce, can afflict the tongue, the speech, the way we speak. And here we're having serious affliction of people's speech, because like we said, and here is the example that I want to give, which we spoke about just with Zori. Right now in France, people are protesting, and I know this from French people who live in France, but you will not see this covered in any media, and this is exactly literally how it goes. Like, you don't see, media is not covering anything except for maybe some internet, YouTube media, I don't know. Literally, the freedom of speech is being seriously afflicted by this particular conjunction.
But yeah, I mean, Uranus also represents upheaval and uprisings, and
yes.
Yeah, so we could see that more and more coming, because this is an ongoing, I mean, still there's going to be a separation of this aspect, Pluto-Saturn, but it's still going to be an ongoing issue.
There will be a separation, but it's a fact since quite some time, because Saturn was there already end 2017, and the more he approached Pluto, the more these things are tightening, around people's necks. So literally, this is how it works. And when you have Jupiter invisible, who is supposed to be who is supposed to bring blessing and help, it's not really happening, because he will show up only on 30th. And here is the interesting thing: he's showing up on 30th of January. At the very moment, yes, at the very moment when Saturn is entering his own sign. Yeah. And this is the next one. Yeah, you said Jupiter visible indeed.
Saturn is entering one day later, on the 31st.
Yeah,
almost. Yeah,
and it's also almost about the visibility of Jupiter, because it depends on the geographical coordinates, but it's around about this time. The difference can be only a few days, but still around this very moment, you're having Mercury entering another sign. We have Saturn entering his sign, and Jupiter visible.
This is this chart, Saturn in Capricorn.
Saturn in Capricorn. This is a very important chart, because this chart, if you like, let's stop on this for a while.
Yeah.
This chart, I also want to hear your opinion, because you're very business oriented, much less I am business oriented. The thing is that on 31st of January, Saturn enters Sidereal Capricorn. And let's remember, Zori, we have to mention this, that this was life-changing 30 years ago as well. Politics, governments, world changed. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the fall of the Berlin Wall, the fall of the communism 30 years ago. You've already mentioned it in your previous video. And the interesting thing is that exactly on this date, the 31st of January, it is the scheduled exit of Great Britain from the European Union. So it's the Brexit. And whether the deal or the agreement would be finished, or whether they would manage to agree on the exit terms, would be decided at the end of the year, which would be the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. But right now is the official Brexit on the 31st of January. And I don't know if this is coincidence.
I don't believe in coincidences. You also don't, right?
No. But for the ones who do, let's say it's a coincidence.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, so what happened 30 years ago? It was like an avalanche of events. One by one, the country started exiting. And what we could experience now is that, I mean, it's already been discussed openly in media, and fears have been expressed that another European country may follow the example of Great Britain. So we could see a dissolution of the European Union. This is not so, so far-fetched as an idea.
Yes, compare this with the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union is pretty much similar model like the European Union. And the end was when? Exactly around this time, when the Saturn.
So whether it's a dissolution of the European Union or of the monetary union, the Eurozone, we can't judge, but we definitely can see something going on around money, around inflation as well, because Neptune is in the 8th house, and it was there also in the chart of, I'm just going to go back quickly, in the chart of Saturn conjunct Jupiter, and Neptune represents inflation. So what does that mean? This means, devaluation of money, possibly countries would go back to their original currencies. Now, there's also an interesting story that I'm going to briefly mention, because I believe it's also not widely covered in the news. It is the fact that in Africa, there are about 7 countries who are currently still paying taxes, colonial taxes, to France. And we're talking about quite large amounts of money, something in the range of 500 billion a year. And so the French economy is highly dependent on these countries paying taxes. So their currency, they've currently created a unified currency, a currency that is pegged to the euro. Previously, it was pegged to the franc before the euro took charge. But the thing is, there are some signs of upheaval now in these countries, and it could be that we see that they decide to separate from the financial dominance of France, which could further destabilize the situation of the European Union and the Eurozone in particular. I don't want to sound dramatic, but these are just trends that we are seeing, and we are matching to previous aspects that had happened and to previous world events. And we know that some patterns repeat.
And you reminded about what happened in 1961, the decision of Kennedy. I didn't know about this one. It was again with the previous Saturn in return, right? He decided the building of the Berlin Wall on the 13th of August. And look what happened. The next 30 years, the next Saturn in return, what happened? The Berlin Wall fell. So we go from return to see of Saturn to see major events. This is how it looks like, right? He's the one who changes the destiny of the world and the people.
Yeah.
He's the Lord of Karma.
But see, what happened in 1961 is that Kennedy was also very famous for his fiscal policy. He actually allowed for the increase of debt, and he poured, I believe, 23 billion in the U.S. economy at that time. Issued additional debt, which is not huge compared to nowadays money. And a lot of investment went. It was government spending. So this helped the economy, and a lot of money was poured into building schools, hospitals, infrastructure, basically. Stone, Capricorn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so currently, recession in the US is not expected. As a matter of fact, there was a report coming out recently from the University of Massachusetts saying that recession is not expected in 2020. It was very much expected in the summer of 2019, and it's quite late in terms of cycles. It was supposed to happen a bit earlier.
But they announced it. They announced recession. I think they announced recession in the summer of 2019, which
there
is
was a slowdown.
Yes,
but not a real recession, and they're of course keeping everything artificially, and maybe they will continue to do so, just like it was done in 61. This is something that I'm not able to predict what the decision would be, but I would suppose, because they have kept it quite stable, I would suppose that they would still maintain some sort of artificial stability.
Once Saturn, how do you see this thing? Once Saturn enters Capricorn, he's automatically squaring Uranus, automatically. And this is going to create a tension which was not present while Saturn was still in the sign of Sagittarius, because then he would form trine, harmonious aspect towards Uranus. But at the moment he enters Capricorn, we are seeing already square. And what is Uranus? He's the upheavals, protests, cryptocurrencies as well. But the interesting thing is that, again, Saturn is not going to be visible up until 1st of March 2020. So if there will be events, they will take place after the springtime.
So you see, it's the Uranus is together with the moon in this snapshot chart. So this would mean probably that there would be the population would be uprising. There would be a lot of protests, and
there will be.
And in this chart, Saturn enters. Well, this is a chart made on the geography of Vienna, which is the same as the geography of Brussels. And let's go back a bit to the European Union. And because Saturn enters the 7th house, I believe that this would affect partnerships. So it would definitely affect the partnership within the European Union.
Yes,
and
most probably.
And it will probably also be caused by protests, because it's the people, the moon in the 10th house. Do you have anything to add here?
Yes, no, exactly. I agree. This is a tension, these are tense energies which cannot stay just like that. They need to they need to exit from somewhere, these energies.
Yeah. And what I'm seeing here also is Neptune square Mars in the 5th house. And Neptune, as I said earlier, represents in the 8th house, especially represents inflation. And in the 5th house, Mars could be, these are small businesses, entrepreneurs, startups. So this inflation may harm the business. Small businesses here. Yeah,
that's for sure. Even though Mars is quite powerful in his own place, but still Neptune being higher in a position simply on this chart can be afflicting indeed. Venus is there, which will kind of bring some, even though she's squaring, but Venus there will bring some balance and a helpful hand, but not enough, I believe, because the whole economy will be influenced by the square between Saturn and Uranus. This is a serious square not to underestimate, because they too rule the sign of Aquarius, but they don't love each other. Mythologically, they don't love each other because, mythologically, Cronus is the father, Uranus is the son, and Cronus castrated Uranus. So there is no place for love here. I don't know. Maybe there is forgiveness in the universe. I'm not sure. Still, there is a tension. We cannot deny that. So this square is not a joke. It's a serious square which exists. Yes.
And also Neptune is another thing. It represents also crude oil and corporations that are listed on the stock market. So it could represent a stock market bubble, which is mentioned, in the news. If you read some business news,
this is already
expected.
Fact. Yeah. But this is a fact since the beginning of this summer. They do this.
Yeah.
But
it's just a confirmation that it's to be seen there. What will happen, true. We can't predict for sure.
It will deepen. It will go further. Yes. How will this affect America and Trump? Now, here is important to mention that we can look at Donald Trump's chart to try to predict results of elections, but without opponent, this is not very reliable, because I remember, I'm going to share my screen with you, which is not properly happening. 1 second, I don't know why. Excuse me, Zorina.
Take your time, no problem.
Exit full screen to find the chart that I want to. Oh yeah, I got it. So it is to predict outcomes of elections in particular, works when you compare, of course, two charts of the two presidents, two potential candidates. So this is always the case, not only in astrology, but in general. Like, this is the chart from an article which I put on my website in 2016 when I was predicting that Trump will win. But at that time, I had the chart of Hillary Clinton, so I could compare the two charts, and it was obvious that Trump will win. Now we can only see what are the main trends, what will possibly happen around him, but who will win, yet we can't tell until we don't see who is the other candidate. Once we see who is the other candidate, I'll be more than happy to compare the two charts and predict. Now we can only see here, very important thing. This is the chart of Donald Trump. You can see here the data: Jamaica, New York, 14th of June, 1946, and you see the time. This is available all over internet, this time of birth, and apparently it is very correct, because I was looking at this chart many times, and the results of the predictions were correct based on this chart. So first of all, let me tell you that Donald Trump is very esoteric, very into astrology very much, because on the ascendant, his ascending degree is very near star of astrology, and in general the sign of Leo is very astrological when on the ascendant. People are very into esoterics and astrology. So Donald Trump is very much into such things. Another thing is that he's born on a full moon. You can see it's even 1 degree away, the moon from the sun, and the moon is applying to the sun with 1 degree distance. This is a full moon. We know that. But here, what is interesting, what to expect. Now, there will be eclipses taking place, and there will be the 2 solar eclipses this year. Not the 2 solar, 1 second. The first, one of the lunar eclipses will take place on 5th and 6th of June, and will be exactly on this axis, on the axis of Scorpio, Taurus, and with this, immediately this eclipse is eclipsing his moon and the sun. And then on the 29th and 30th of November, you're having again lunar eclipse, which is eclipsing this axis again of Taurus, Scorpio, and the total solar eclipse is happening on the 14th of December and is eclipsing his moon. And I will tell you from what I learned from ancient texts and from my personal experience, it's very, people cannot have really luck and cannot expect their plans to be achieved once luminaries like the sun and the moon are being eclipsed, and also when this is happening on a key axis in the horoscope, like is the midheaven lower meridian axis. So this is not very positive in terms of the future elections or the eventual presidency of Donald Trump. However, I can tell you more only once I see who will be the other candidate. Then I would definitely compare and tell you this or this would, according to my personal opinion, would win. But in this case, I see that even if he wins, he will have a lot of unlucky events as a follow-up because of this eclipse, which is going to eclipse this axis. And I remember when there was an eclipse after he was elected, there was an eclipse happening on his ascendant, eclipsing his Mars, which is in the conjoined Regulus, the royal star in the heart of the lion. And I remember that after this eclipse, there were series of difficult events, attempts for impeachment, attempts for gossips, just many unfortunate events which followed up the eclipse, which happened on his ascendant-descendant axis. And now this, yeah.
And so the elections are scheduled, I believe you said that the outcome of the elections would be on the 14th of November.
That's very interesting. 14th of December. We were just checking
November.
Google.
November.
14th December. No, he 29, 30 of 11 is one of the eclipses. Then 3rd of November is the election date. But I think the decision or something like that we read in Google was on 14th of December, on the day of the total solar
inauguration. The inauguration probably of the
inauguration.
New president. Okay.
You can imagine there are no coincidences in this universe. Such it's, I don't know even how to analyze this.
Yeah, wow. That's really something.
Yes, of course. And look what is also happening now. Saturn, who actually is placed on the 30 degrees of Gemini, in his own term, the Saturn in the chart of Donald Trump is not bad, because Saturn likes diurnal charts, and Saturn is in a kind of exaltation in a sign of Gemini, according to a few ancient texts. But what is interesting here is that Saturn enters the sign of Capricorn, which is his 6th house. I don't expect that this will be serious affliction on his health, because his Saturn is not that bad, because we know that the 6th house is about health, conflicts, disputes. But I believe that Saturn will bring some kind of justice in relation to disputes, arguments, and also health issues. He's luckily not squaring any luminary, but Saturn in the 6th house will bring justice in relation to the disputes which are already open against him. So in a way...
So he's not going to be assassinated, because there were some claims that he would be assassinated.
I don't see any support to this opinion, but Saturn in the 6th house is certainly going to bring justice in relation to 6th house issues, health. And once again, his Saturn is not bad. So I don't expect that the Saturn will be destroying his health. But I expect that that Saturn will give him strength to win over enemies, because of the fact that his Saturn is not badly placed and is very powerful in Saturn in term. Saturn is also ruling by triplicity. Saturn is quite powerful and is Almutan, so he's quite Saturn in himself, Trump. So I don't believe that Saturn will destroy his health, but I believe that Saturn will give him strength to be able to win over enemies. So he has possibilities to win, but it will be kind of unlucky situation, because even if he wins, which I can tell you after I see the opponent, once again I want to say, even if he wins, it's a very, very serious affliction, the affliction of midheaven, lower meridian, of eclipse, and especially when luminaries will be eclipsed. This is not a joke, it's a very serious thing.
All right. So we expect more as we come closer to this event.
Yes. I'm very curious who will be the candidate, the other candidate. This will be very, very interesting. And I hope we can manage to find the chart.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk now about a positive event coming up, hopefully. Yeah.
Zori, everything is positive. It's allowed by the creator. It's allowed by the universe. So it has some positive impact on our souls. And you know what? There is this Chinese saying I heard somewhere, like, I don't wish you to live in interesting times.
Yes.
Well, welcome. We live in interesting times.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a curse, wasn't it?
Well, yes, maybe.
Let me see if I can share.
And you mentioned that you will advise on the most appropriate businesses in relation to the situation on the sky that will be expected in 2020.
Yeah, so the luckiest event, the conjunction of Jupiter Saturn, the manifesting aspect of Jupiter and Saturn is at the end of the year. So after that, wait a second, I'm just trying to, can you see my screen?
I see it. John Kennedy becomes president.
Here we are. This is the chart that I wanted to show. So basically, I want to give some recommendations, the way I see things, about businesses that would be profitable based on this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction that happens once in 20 years. But it would give the rhythm, the taste of the coming 20 years of where people could make money from, because this is what Jupiter represents. So first of all, I read somewhere that wherever in the house where Jupiter is, this is where you can make money from. So, looking at your own chart or in the chart of your country, then you would see where your country could make money from. But let's look at the aspects now and try to figure out what businesses would be profitable in the coming decades. We talked a little bit before we started recording that Saturn represents everything old. So it could be knowledge. There could be the whole knowledge economy coming up, and a lot of ancient knowledge could be dug out, because we see that there's a connection of the moon in the 9th house, which represents higher knowledge, to the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And this would mean coming out of old knowledge, and also everything that has to do with the 9th house, which is knowledge, philosophies, international trade as well, but spirituality, the development of spirituality would be a major thing. And since the moon is there, I would suppose anything that is represented by the moon. So this would be businesses related to psychology, to the emotional stability of people, to healing as well. Yes, also to real estate, because of the conjunction again to Saturn, and Saturn is rocks. So I would suppose moon being real estate, and Saturn, it could be real estate, and since it's in the sign of Pisces, it could be hotels. The hotel industry could be doing really well, or anything developed in the water, maybe real estate on water, because it's in Pisces. These are a bit futuristic things, but the moon, and especially now that it's in a water sign, also represents hydro energy. This is what I recently read as well while I was preparing for this talk. So interesting fact, but hydro energy, and it's totally logical because it's the cleanest way of energy. Also anything related to Mother Earth, to
gemstones.
Yes. Let me see if I have anything to add here. We already have quite a few things where you can direct your attention to.
Yes. These building businesses, real estate, always, like you mentioned, just to emphasize on this, because Capricorn is about this, indeed, about building stones, like you said.
Yeah.
And
Interestingly,
new belief systems, but this is not a business, but it could be, because more and more people are following different philosophical knowledges and sciences. So this can thrive more now after this particular placement of, it's already a fact. But since when you look at the momentary the picture of this situation, certainly this will thrive even more.
But look, an interesting thing is that Mars is conjunct the MC, and still in the ninth house, and this could mean conflict, religious conflict,
and
based on ideologies.
Exactly.
Yes.
Fake gurus, fake misbelief, and it could be also very contradictory. Very
And in the end, these are generalizations. What you want to do may not be connected to these. These are the general forecast of what would the development be in the coming years. But if you have a passion for something...
Agriculture, biological agriculture. Agriculture, this is very important, because Capricorn and Saturn, being in Capricorn, Saturn is the ruler of the agriculture. So he's already there, very powerful. And the year agriculture looked will be good. But once Jupiter enters, this will be even more blessed, this activity. So Jupiter and Saturn together in the sign of Capricorn, this will be wonderful for the agriculture and for such business. And more people are into such a business for this organic biological agriculture. So this is very important that we spoke about and we forgot to mention.
Yeah, right. And this is both represented by the moon and by Saturn, because moon is the land.
And the moon is very important to say. The moon is very powerful in the sign of Pisces, because for our era, the point of the vernal equinox is in Pisces. So the moon is in a way like exalted there. So it's again land. It's again thriving of this land-based business of organic, healthy products, say.
So these are things that we're already seeing anyhow, all of these things that we're mentioning, but
they will thrive more. It will be emphasized on more.
All right.
Thank you, Zori.
Thank you so much, Krasi. Just to remind people that you're making amazing astrological talismans on the 30th of January when Jupiter becomes visible.
Yes, it will be one time per 12 years, because he's only one time per 12 years in his sign and becomes visible at this very moment when we'll be using Jupiter for the creation of astrological talismans, indeed.
And if you would like to know what your personal profitable business would be, come and check my program, Start a Business with Meaning, on Healnlearn.com.
Oh, these links will be under the video. Yes. Zori has many also free trainings, some are wonderful, even meditations, very amazing, with Joe Greenland, who is known also on my channel. And you do amazing job together. So all these links you will see under this video.
Thank you so much, Krasi.
Thank you.
Enjoy 2020.
Oh yeah. It will be interesting time.